How about a little Card Sharks to bring us in this morning? And in case you haven't noticed, it's the early bird version. And this is a permanent change. This is one of the permanent changes I've spoken about. Good. Welcome to the Wacky Wednesday early bird edition of Snowman in the Morning. Cole Johnson riding shotgun. How are you, my man?
Doing good. Doing good this morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am doing absolutely fantastic. We got a lot on the table, and I'm going to borrow from you to kick things off. I have two words to describe Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and the Los Angeles Lakers, and you did a beautiful job of this. This is why I want you to reprise it. The two words, tone deaf.
It's basic and simple.
Mm-hmm.
When the organization basically decided to let this one figure basically be the GM, and I'm not talking about Rob Pelinka.
No, he's only GM in name only.
Yeah. When they wanted to have the players that this person wanted, he went to the tried and true formula he has done in two other places where he would have the whole organization eschew the youngsters in lieu of proven veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked with the Heat because, well, the proven veterans were around 28, 29, 30, and maybe a couple that were 35, 36, 37.
Yeah.
But when you try the same formula and you were around the same ages as those 36, 37-year-olds, it's not going to work because half the team is thinking about retirement, and they have a group of guys where, as I said, it's like defense is optional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they right now are in the athletic portion of get off my lawn. You know, they're going to do what they do when they feel like it.
Yep. They most certainly are.
Yeah, and when you have that, that's the problem. And when people were saying, well, we got these names, and Kendrick Perkins saying, well, they have 6 Hall of Famers on the team. I'm like, man, I don't care if they are future. That doesn't amount to hill of beans.
It really doesn't.
And when you are at that moment, where you're looking at the team and you're seeing the talent depleted, you're seeing people who barely can hit a shot, you're seeing people who don't want to be invested defensively, and you're seeing the talent that would actually be profitable for you leave, and you're plucking them out and cherry picking them and letting them go because they aren't doing what they're doing now.
Right.
That's the biggest issue of all. Now, this is a letter-wide issue. This is not necessarily toward one person per se, but
this is a team issue. And it's been a team issue for a couple of years, championship notwithstanding. Yeah. This has been a team issue since the 2018-19 season, because when unsaid person, who we'll mention later, decides I'm going to do it my way and no one stops him, then you got a big problem on your hands. Huge problem.
To the point where they actually allowed to let walk, constrict before he walks, and handcuff before he walks the legend that's known as Magic Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
You should know that's an issue,
mm-hmm.
and that's a problem. That is organization-wide. That you're rolling the red carpet for this one person who's on the court, trump everything else. Because to me, when you talk about Lakers, there isn't a player walking the face of this earth now that bleeds purple and yellow like Magic does.
Like Magic Johnson.
One. There's a one.
since
And
1979
yeah.
when he was drafted by the Los
Hmm.
Angeles Lakers, and his first coach, Paul Westhead, allowed him to guide them to a championship in 1980.
Yeah. So you have this figure who's been a part of your family, part of this organization for 4 decades, and
Mm-hmm.
you, in the kindest way possible, allow this Johnny come lately to come into your system, and because his name is hot on the streets today, you basically ride with him when you do this legend who has the organization's best interest and possibly could be what you would need in the front office.
Yeah.
But they're like, forget it. And then, of course, it didn't help matters that the team went on the following year to win their latest championship.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to start asking the question, and I believe the Lakers are beginning to ask it now. So we sell out to get the chip at what expense?
Mm-hmm.
Because guaranteed, how they were before 2019, 20, they were languishing in mediocrity for the 7 years prior.
Oh yeah.
And they're about to go back there once the circus that is right now, what is there and what's transpiring is gone. Because what what is going to be in the cupboard?
Not a
Nothing.
damn thing. Not a damn thing.
And you have to have an eye toward the future, even if you think that you can win it now. But having them think that 35, 36, 37 year olds, a slew of them, is going to get the job done, the Lakers should know better than that. But they
Yeah.
don't.
Should know better. But the wrong, what have I always said? The wrong person is in charge.
Hmm.
The wrong person is in charge. Period. And it's been that way since he signed the contract. Rob Palenka is GM in name only, and they have basically acquiesced to him for this entire time.
Yep. And now we're going on 4 years for him being the one they acquiesce to. And it looks like to me it's not going to end after this year. It looks like it's going to extend itself at least another 2 or 3.
Oh God. Oh.
Because remember, he signed a 4 year contract
Right.
and
And then he extended himself.
he extended himself. Yeah. But if the original contract were to expire, it would have been this summer. But you hearing how people still adore this man, and so you know the announcement of retirement is not coming this year. It's
Nope.
not coming next year.
It's not
It may
coming.
not even come the year after that.
It's and to see such a wonderful franchise handcuffed in that position. He handcuffed himself to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Hmm. I mean, it's
And they're going to be as mediocre as the Cleveland Cavaliers before he arrived.
this is gonna sound so callous and cold, but it just fits. This figure is now starting to become a succubus,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw early signs of it when he left Miami. We definitely are seeing signs of it now because they're starting to now recover from when he left
Yeah.
Cleveland, and now this is year 4 of him being gone there.
Mm-hmm. Every team he has been with, he's left the cupboard extremely
Hmm.
bare.
Yeah, they didn't even recover the first time he left Cleveland until he got back there.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows how much scorched earth he's going to leave when he retires. And that's a cold thing to say, but you just look at the tea leaves.
Look,
It's
you can
difficult to not
read.
read it.
You how can you not read the tea leaves? He's gonna scorch them all when he retires.
Yeah.
and yet they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame.
I don't know.
You know
It's
that bugs me. You
well,
know that bugs me.
yeah, well, it's not even a question of him being in the Hall of Fame. The only problem though is you have you have this sliding scale of greatness that seems to exist,
Mm-hmm.
and reason why I say sliding scale, when we were growing up, it basically was what the player did on the court, maybe a little bit of what he did off of it, right?
Right. It was purely judged on what their achievements and what they did on the court and what kind of, what's the five-letter word I'm looking for? Impact he
Hmm.
had on the floor.
Yeah. Now we have this new brand of greatness where, yeah, the encore stuff is taken into account, but
But
that's even a sliding scale with that.
it's a big sliding it's a big sliding scale with that. It's a
Yeah.
big sliding scale, especially when it comes to you know who. We're going to talk about that
Hmm.
in in a little bit. It's a big sliding scale because what can he do well? How many times have we posed this question? What can he do well?
And I will continually say the only thing that he can do well, and he's starting to have a lot of diminishing returns because of, well, his age,
Mm-hmm.
is that he can be a bull in a china shop. And
And even
that,
that now comes into question.
yeah, yeah, and I mean that's the only thing that he can do that you say, okay, virtually no one else really can do with the effectiveness that he can.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, that's starting to wane because now he's in year number 19. But for most of his career, people thought, well, how can you stop a 6'9", 260-pound locomotive? And that can can be wiped out at any moment. Just look at Allen Iverson, who
Mm-hmm.
he was an athletic marvel and dynamo. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the first step, no
And
one ever had.
no one had ever had
And
a step like that, especially a guard.
yeah, no one ever had that first step. But when he got to be about 35, that first step started to get slower.
Mm-hmm. And he
And
lost a
that,
little rise in his legs for his jump shot,
hmm
which I hated to see. But hey, Father Time is undefeated,
yeah, yeah,
and they're gonna put him. I'm speaking of you know who. Allen Iverson earned his spot. They're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame, and not just because of basketball either.
yeah.
They're going to celebrate him for mostly what he did off the court instead of on it. They're going to sprinkle everything he did on the court piece by piece by piece, but it's not going to be all he's going to be judged by.
Yeah, like I said, a new sliding scale. The fact that he now has opened a school, which you have to shrug in saying that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he now is a Hollywood power broker, although it's at its infancy stage.
Very much so.
You have those things that are now being put into consideration with his greatness,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you do on the court stuff, it's yeah, he has 4 championships, but he more than likely would be the most prolific scorer in the game. He'll probably end up having 10,000 rebounds and 10,000 assists, and because of that, you're going to have a lot of people say, well, no player has done this, and no player has done this, and
And
no player has done this
yeah.
more and more and more
Mm-hmm.
as you get further along in his career.
And we're getting it now.
Hmm.
We're getting it now.
Yeah.
What's the one statement? No one's ever done what LeBron has done at age 37. And yet, folks like you and I and quite a few others come along and say, we've seen better at that age,
Hmm.
even
Yeah.
before that age.
Hmm.
And you say something like that, and they're ready to stone you. They're absolutely ready to stone you. And you're like, what? I'm just presenting facts here.
I love it. I love it
I
because
love it too because what have we basically said since we've been on the air? Bring all the smoke you can.
mhm,
A few facts will knock you down.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, it just remains the truth. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
dude is he is so athletic and gifted. But we have been around the block more than once,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen more than one athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and we've seen those athletes rely so much on athleticism that when that time that Mother Nature decides to say, you really can't do the same things now as you did when you were 25, come to play, that the athleticism is gone, and then you have to rely on other things. You have to rely on skill.
Mm-hmm. Which is why every player that you and I watched growing up developed them.
Hmm.
And this makes it so funny. We're going to take this all the way to the first break, and then we'll come back with our favorite Wednesdays segment because we got started late. Um, quick update: headlines will start tomorrow. That'll always be segment two. Um, with some of the names that we mention and mention often. Here, take the latest stretch, and you've heard it. I've heard it. Have you seen LeBron stretch at center? Have you seen the numbers he's put up?
Sickening. Yes.
Um, we've seen the numbers LeBron has put up at center, and they're bloated. I'm going to get a lot of pushback, but I don't care. Bring the smoke if you dare.
Well,
The
it
numbers
was.
he put up at center are bloated. For the simplest of reasons, they have him playing point guard as well as center. Come on now.
Well, you don't have to look further than Saturday's game in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I
They
mean,
got wiped out
he scored 24 points in that game. So that was actually a pretty good game for him.
for him, but not for
But
the
if
team because they
yeah,
got wiped out.
but if you walk off with a 37-point defeat, how good is that 24-point performance?
A big fat L.
Hmm.
A big fat 37-point L against the best center in the game in Nikola Jokic.
And there's not a debate about that at all.
People want to make it a debate. I don't.
Mm-mm. He easily is the best center in the game today.
He
It's not even.
is.
It's not even.
It's
It's
not
not
even
even.
close.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. You know, I've had folks say to me, you know, LeBron is one of the best passing big men. Wrong. I, I'll go back to 1979, and I'm going to
You
mention
bet.
a name that's going to make you smile. There was a big man by the name of Jack Sikma out of Illinois Wesleyan.
Oh man, what a game he has
Mm-hmm.
had. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh.
You want another big? You want another big that could pass the hell out of the ball while playing two different big positions, power forward and center? You know the name I'm going to bring up. I believe his name is Tom Chambers.
Yep. People undersell his game, but yeah, sweet all around game, and the passing was underrated.
Underrated passing big man. This is a list subject for Friday. Um, give you three of them: Karl Malone, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Charles Barkley. Passing big men.
Let's give credit to where it's due with Kareem. I
He
think
used that skyhook to not only shoot the ball but pass it.
hmm that was when I think teams started to understand the power of
Mm-hmm.
a big man in the post,
Yep.
and
That's
it, the
exactly
threat
what that's exactly what that was.
and the threat doesn't necessarily mean he's going to shoot the ball
Every time.
every time. Yeah, and he was so adept at that. He was so adept at it. I
A-
mean,
As big
it
of a
was
Michael Jordan fan as I am, the most unstoppable shot in NBA history was Kareem Skyhook, and I love the captain.
look, you with Jordan, me with Elijah one.
Yep.
Dream Shake to me is
Dream.
probably my favorite big man
Mm-hmm.
go to move.
Yep.
Even that move is not as unstoppable as the Skyhook.
And I love the Dream Shake.
Yeah.
I adore Hakeem Olajuwon from his days at the University of Houston. When I saw him play in the national championship against North Carolina State, I saw then he was going to be one hell of a player. And he made it back to the national championship against Georgetown.
The very next year. Yeah.
And speaking of passing big man, before we go to a break, do I dare? Man, hey, Bronsexuals, I got a question for you.
Oh, Lord.
Dare I mention the name Patrick Ewing? Dare I mention the name Patrick Ewing?
Don't get me started on how people disrespect him.
They disrespect him. They disrespect Olajuwon. They disrespect Kareem. They disrespect Sigma, Chambers, Karl Malone, Barkley. You know what? I'll give you a pat. I'll give you bronsexuals and you woke ass NBA fans and you non-NBA fans that pretend to be NBA fans a passing big man whose career was curtailed by an injury. If you go to Cleveland, look up the name Brad Daugherty.
He was on his way to being one of those centers we would have to talk about.
I still talk about him.
And what I loved about him
Mm-hmm.
was that he had athleticism, obviously, but
Yep.
the skill was through the roof.
The drop step alone.
The skill
Yep.
of the big man was through the roof for him.
That drop step of his was something else. Let's go to a break. When we come back, the reason why we're at it's Wednesday. I'm getting a couple of things situated here, so hang with us, y'all. Back in a flash.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals America and the Ad Council.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/one small step, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/one small step. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No